right, here we go. Welcome. We've got people joining us. Welcome. Great to see everyone. You will notice that you are on mute. So we'll be staying on mute during the call because Julie and I will be doing the main speaking, but you can use the chat to interact as well as we go through. So really looking forward to connecting with everyone as we go through here. And we've probably got a few more people are going to be joining over the next few minutes, which will be good. There's also quite a few people that wanted to watch the recording. It's not always able to make these things. So those of you that are watching the recording, welcome as well to our creative business webinar. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to run you through what the plan is for today. Okay, so during this webinar, we're going to end up running it for about 30 minutes to an hour. We might go a little bit over. We'll see how we go. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sharing a little bit more around creative business and some key tactics and tips that we see, that Julie and I both see, that people struggle with. Right, so we really wanted to get on a call, share tips and ideas to help people along as well. Then what we'll also do is towards the end, we'll have time for questions. Right, so it's a really good opportunity. If you've got any questions, we have had some questions sent in already, which is good. If you've got questions, you can post them in the chat. Now you can actually do that if you want to post questions during the whole webinar, or when it's question time as we get sort of 2/3 through, feel free to pop them in the chat then as well. And look, feel free to say hi in the chat. So the first thing that we'll say is if you can just share where you are in the chat. You can just share where you are. It could be where you are in the world. We'll see where everyone is. So just pop that in the chat, where you are zooming in from today. So what we're going to do is we'll do a brief intro, because I know some of you know me, some of you know Julie, but you may not know both of us, which is really good. And Julie and I connected a couple of months ago now, online actually, and we were like, let's get on a call, let's have a conversation. And we just both found I think we both got really good high energy, haven't we, Julie?
100%.
So we're like, let's get on a call. And we actually did an Instagram live a couple of weeks ago, which was lots of fun. And then we were like, hey, let's jump on a call and do a webinar and share it with our audiences as well. So Nancy, coming in from Texas, nice to see you again, Nancy. Hope you're doing really well. Fantastic. And we've got Robert there from Cumberland as well. So there we go. Just adding a few more people joining in. Rhode Island, there we go. Fantastic. Yes. All right, so we've got other people joining in too, which is great. So look, we're going to get underway, and to start with, we'll get Julie to give us a bit of an intro, or a bit more about yourself, Julie, and then I'll do an intro as well. So over to you.
Sure. Thanks so much, Logan. I really appreciate you inviting me here, having me here today. It's great to see some familiar faces and names. Hello, Robert. Hello, Malia. Good to see you. And hello to Nancy and Jules. I don't know you just yet. Hi. So I am Julie Cortés, copywriter by day, freelance rock star by night. I live, breathe, coach, teach, and speak on all things freelancing. I have run my own freelance copywriting business for almost 25 years now. This is where y'all say, but you don't look a day over 29. But for real, I've been doing this a long time, full time, and I absolutely love it. I've endured my fair share of ups and downs, have made my fair share of mistakes along the way, and now I love giving back to the community and my fellow freelancers and helping them find the way much sooner than I did, and helping them find success. So I created my own course. It's called Freelancing 101. I teach at the world-renowned Kansas City Art Institute, where I teach young artists, both commercial and fine, how to run a successful freelance business. From there, I've had so many people ask me if they could sit in on my class, but you can't. You have to enroll and go back to school and pay, and nobody wants to do that. So it was like, okay, Cortés, light bulb moment. Why don't you open up a coaching arm to your business? And really a funny thing happened much sooner before all of this. Is about 5 years into my freelancing career, I was looking around and I was like, gosh, there's so many of us freelancers. We all have the same challenges and opportunities. And really, there's this void in education and community and even respect for the creative freelancer. And so apparently I've made it my personal life's mission to rectify that. In 2003, I created a non-for-profit professional trade organization called the Freelance Exchange. It is currently just based here in Kansas City, but I am in talks with the president of Freelancers Union about taking it national. So be on the lookout for that. Anyway, it's been a great collective of creatives that have formed this beautiful community in which we hit those voids, and we fulfill those voids with continuing education, with networking, promotional opportunities, and much, much more. So it's just become this beautiful community, and I've become known for it and have essentially built my career on it. So now that I'm able to take this online, all of these resources and tips and tricks online to share with everybody much further than Kansas City, I couldn't be any more excited to do so. So enough about me. Logan, this is your deal. Let's talk about you. Let's hear about your introduction.
I love it. So I'm going to do a slightly different intro. I'm going to start off by saying one of my passions is climbing volcanoes and running retreats on volcanoes. So some people call me the volcano retreat host, but that's a small part of what I do actually. So my original background is that I had my own live events company for 11 years, which I built up and eventually sold. And during that time, I also got quite involved in the creative teaching space. So a few years into running my own creative business, I ended up wanting to really help others and see how I could support others during their journey as well. I'd also studied an entrepreneurship master's that really helped me with the skills, as well as then the experiences from running my own business. So I ended up in New Zealand. You'll probably catch, those of you that don't know me, I do have a Kiwi New Zealand accent. So I'm from New Zealand originally. So in New Zealand, I was doing a lot of work with universities and different programs, public programs, helping people start and grow their creative businesses as well, which was great. So that sort of developed and grew over the years. I ended up getting more focused on that, ended up exiting the entertainment company so I could focus on education full time, because I have a big passion for how can we, create and grow these businesses. These amazing people who have these creative abilities and skills, often struggling, often with the creative side they're great at, the business side they struggled with. So I'm very passionate about both the creative and the business side. So I really love how we can use the business tools and side to really grow our creative businesses. So these days I'm full-time focusing being a creative business coach. All of my clients primarily, actually most of my clients are based in the US, in the States, but I do have some clients in Canada and some in Europe as well. Now, I work with people to help them grow their businesses. So a lot of people I work with, half of them, they have a full-time job, they're doing some freelancing on the side, and they want to basically exit their day job and do their thing full-time. The other half, they already have a creative business, they're already full-time, they're just figuring out how to grow. How do we get it to that sustainable 10K per month mark? And that's what I do, is I help people through that process as a creative business coach. I have a program, and then I do run retreats. So I have a retreat I'm running in Spain next month with another creative, which I'm super excited about. So that's sneaking up to it. And then the final piece I'll add is that I also travel full-time. So I run my business from different parts of the world, usually a month in each location. Primarily, I tend to stick between the US and Europe during the summer, and then during the northern winter, I tend to head towards New Zealand and South America. So I do like chasing the sun. I do like to ski as well. So I just haven't been able to find any snow for a while. So there you go. But yeah, so that's part of what I do too. I'm actually in Chicago right now. So I'm in Chicago for a few weeks, which is great, catching up with and connecting with a few friends here as well. Awesome. All right. So I really want to kick into it. Should we do it? Should we do it, Julie? Get into
Let's
the
do
plans. All right. So we've got a few things that we really wanted to focus on. And these are things that we see people struggle with so much around running and growing their creative businesses. So Julie and I each basically picked 3 topics we thought would be really helpful for you all here on the call. And we really want you to lean into them and really think about how could you use these things to grow your business, maybe to get through some of the blocks in your way at the moment. First one is super important. It's confidence. Right now, confidence is this really interesting thing because our confidence goes up and down like this. And it's really important to recognize that confidence is a skill, just like marketing is a skill, sales is a skill, your craft is a skill. If you're a painter, it's a skill. If you're a graphic designer, that's a skill. So confidence, we sometimes think, oh no, it's just this thing you're born with, and I'm just a confident person, or I'm not. Right? I've never been a confident person. The really interesting thing here is that it's a skill, so it means you can get better at it. Okay, and I'm going to share 2 amazing things that you can do to really help you build up your confidence, even build it up today, let alone ideally longer term. We want to build that confidence up. Now, the first one, pretty simple, is to celebrate wins. All right. So we don't celebrate our wins enough. And when I say celebrate wins, it doesn't have to be something big. It could be, a win could be, hey, I set up this new thing in my business. Hey, I attended this awesome creative business webinar today. That's a win, right? You're learning about your creative business and how you could grow it. All right. So getting focused on celebrating wins helps you to feel good, right? Helps you to feel like you're moving forward, which boosts your confidence. Now, all of us, no matter, even if we're having the worst day, there's always something to celebrate. There's always something to really focus on and be grateful for and recognize as a win. All right. Sometimes it could just literally be, I just survived that really tough day. Or it could be, oh man, I got this great client that I've just confirmed. Now, when I say celebrate wins, ideally you want to do something, okay, to physically celebrate it. Now, my favorite is to go and have gluten-free, dairy-free cake, right? Oh, I love chocolate cake, but it's dairy intolerant, gluten intolerant. So that's something that I love to do to celebrate a win. It doesn't have to be food. It could just be do a dance, right? Have a bit of a dance around the living room. I also have this little bell, right? I don't have it on me right now, but I've got this little bell that is this bell that I ring to celebrate wins, right? So it's something to signal to you that things are good and that you are winning. A lot of us growing up, we're kind of told, oh, don't gloat and, don't show off, right? But actually we can still celebrate wins with ourselves, and those around us should celebrate and support with us too. So part of that is surrounding yourselves by people who appreciate you celebrating your wins as well. Love it. Awesome. So one more thing I'm going to share around building your confidence. This is a really interesting one. It's quite simple, but it's really hard at times. It's doing the things you say you're going to do. Okay. Doing the things you say you're going to do, because, and this is not just to other people, right? We want to show up for other people. We say, hey, I'm going to take out the trash, or hey, I'm going to send this client this thing, right? We want to do it because we want to boost up their confidence in us, which builds up our confidence, but also it's the things that we tell ourselves we're going to do. And we constantly have this conversation that's happening between our conscious brain and our subconscious brain, right? Where if I'm like, okay, today I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to update my website today. That's what I'm going to do. And you make the plan in the morning. Now, if you don't do that, you're actually telling your subconscious mind, oh, sometimes I'll say things, you just ignore them. I won't actually do them. Right. So next time you go to say to yourself, I'm going to do this thing today, your subconscious brain's be like, yeah, sure, you never do those things. Right. And you're going to lose confidence. Whereas actually really making sure those things that you say you're going to do, even to yourself, you're doing them and you're ticking them off. And then you're going to feel really good. You're like, yeah, I always do what I say. When I make a plan and I say, I'm going to update my website, I get it done. This is something that will actually bring up and boost that confidence level that you have at the moment as well. Cool. So that's around confidence. We're going to jump into the next thing. And obviously we might have a chat around some of the topics we each bring. So over to you, Julie.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on a couple of things you mentioned, that last part, following through on the things that you want to say. I mean, not only is that important for you, but of course it's important for your clients too, right? You want to be known as a person who can follow through, who commits 110%, right, on everything. So if you can't even do it for yourself, how can you do it for your clients? It all starts with you. I think that's so important. What was your second one? Go back. Your second tip.
So first one is about celebrating the wins,
right,
and doing what you say you'll do.
Wasn't there something in between?
No, that's us. Yeah.
I just got so. No, really good stuff. I feel like there's so much to be said for confidence, and we go back and forth on this whole thing of, fake it till you make it. And do people really buy into that concept, or is it a whole bunch of BS, kind of thing? But I feel like you've got to believe in yourself before your clients are going to believe in you. So it definitely starts with you. And a lot of that has to do with mindset, 100%. So that is a great segue onto our next topic here that I actually want to talk about. And that's about embracing your very own badassery. I don't know why it is, and maybe you've experienced this as well, but there are some clients out there, or even potential clients, who will try and take advantage of freelancers or creative people or the self-employed in general. Is it because they're doing it intentionally because they think they can take advantage of us because we don't know what we're doing? Or is it because simply they just don't know any better? There's that lack of education that they have. But sometimes they try to dictate the rules, and I will never understand that. Like, we are freelance business owners. We should be able to make our own rules, our own business policies, what have you. So why does a client come in and tell us, no, no, no? Like, for example, I have a 30-day payment turnaround. That is industry standard. And a client says, oh, no, we're not going to pay you until we get paid by our clients. I'm like, no, I'm not a financial lending institution. Why do you think I'm a bank? I'm not giving out loans here. So this happens quite a bit. And whether it's with your payment terms or your contract, things that are in your contract, such as payment terms or intellectual property, whatever else you might have in there, they might try and say, oh, no, we're not going to sign your contract. You need to sign ours, or we're not signing it at all. Why do you, a measly, one person business, have a contract? We could go all day on this subject matter, but the secret is to not let them. You've got to become your own badass, quite honestly. And I feel like the more that collectively we do this as a workforce, as a freelance workforce, the better off we'll be, because now we will be training our clients, right? You got to train yourself first, and then you train your clients. So don't let them get away with that kind of stuff. Of course, it depends on the situation, and you're going to have to weigh the pros and cons of every situation, but you need to earn the respect that you deserve. All right. Let me tell you something. Just because you are self-employed does not mean that clients get to walk all over you. All right. It stops today. And that comes down to, things that freelancers complain about most of the time, such as being paid or being paid on time. Like, why are those even issues? I don't understand that. But a lot of this comes back to your mindset and your confidence, right? How can you be confident in your service? How can your client be confident in your services if you're not confident in your own? All right. So you know that you are well within your right to determine your own payment terms, your own business policies, what's negotiable, what you will and will not put up with. All right. You've got to find that confidence. You've got to embrace your badassery. You've got to maintain your power. So how do you do that? I'm going to give you 3 of my best tips here. Number 1 is to get educated on business practices. That means immerse yourself in absolutely everything you can, whether it's reading books, such as, I love the Freelancer's Bible put out by Freelancers Union. I love the Graphic Artists Guild, Handbook of Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. All of those are really, really good. Immerse yourself in that. Take webinars like this, go to conferences, whatever you can do to learn as much as you possibly can, because I don't know about you, but more often than not, us creative professionals went to school to learn our craft and didn't take business classes because either they weren't required or we didn't think we would ever need them, right? And we were wrong. So immerse yourself, be a continual student of learning everything there is to learn about running a business, and know that you'll never know it all either, because things change every year. Heck, tax laws change every year. Social media changes every year, so try and keep up to date on absolutely everything. Number 2, learn industry standards. All right. There's a few organizations you can go to, and I'll put these in the chat when I'm done here. But there's a few organizations you can go to online even that can help you with things like that. I keep mentioning Freelancers Union. They are amazing. They're an advocacy group out of New York. They have excellent resources on their website and in their blog. Check them out. I would even say AIGA, even if you're not a graphic artist, there's some great information on their national website. So I would check those out for sure. Even the Graphic Artists Guild has excellent resources. So kind of, again, get educated, know the business practices, know the industry standards. And then number 3 is to know your legal rights. Okay. If you are well aware of what you are legally entitled to do and not to do, what comes into play when it comes to things like intellectual property, you are going to be well ahead of the game. So how do you do that? Of course, finding an attorney would be helpful. One who specializes in working with self-employed creatives would be even better. I do know there are you know, of course, more classes and books and all that stuff out there that you can immerse yourself in, but some of this stuff is over our heads, right? So protect yourself with a contract, find an attorney. There's some organizations, and look in your city or town to see if there's one there. I know here in Kansas City, in the middle of the United States, we have the Kansas City Volunteer Lawyers and Accountants for the Arts, where they offer free and discounted services for creative professionals. So see if there's one in your town. But beyond that, I feel like just that confidence and embracing your own badassery, they kind of come into play and they fit so well together. I'm glad we went in this order, Logan. And I know you're gonna jump over to another topic, but do you have any other thoughts on embracing badassery?
I love it. I mean, I think part of it is just remembering that whoever your clients are, they're probably trying to figure out how to pay their bills at times. And if you're someone who, as Julie describes, you've got clear terms, you're very firm on them, you're very, you're polite but strong around those terms, then they're probably going to pay you first. Right, that's the reality of what actually happens. If you're like, oh, you can pay me when you want, and they let you, they say, or they haven't paid you by your due date, and you just don't do anything, you say, oh well, hopefully they'll pay me soon. You don't contact them, don't send them anything. They're going to be like, oh well, they don't seem to care. I'll pay them last. Right, so that's part of what's actually happening behind the scenes here as well. Is like you having those firm procedures, like Julie says, and being really strong on them and following up bang straight away means they'll go, okay, we better get that person paid. Sometimes it's just administrative problems. It's not necessarily they don't have the money. It's just that there's a process in the way. So once again, it's easier for them to just get it paid than have to reply an email. And they're like, oh, if I don't pay this person, they're going to be following me up again and again. So sometimes, that's important as well. So yeah, just adding that bit on there too, Julie. I love it. I think there's so much great value there in what you've just run through. All right. So what we're going to jump into next, friends, is around pricing. Okay, so pricing is a whole topic in itself. It's something that I dig into big time when I go work with my clients. I actually have a whole module because it's such a big topic. However, there is some really key fundamental things, and I'm going to share some of them here. The first one is around what I call value-based pricing. The reason you should charge what you charge is because that's what people are willing to pay. Okay, and that's what they value something at. And this is really interesting. We can get really stuck into, okay, well, I'm going to price my services or my products because of the materials involved, the time involved, how long it took me, et cetera, et cetera. You could do some equations that way. Now, that's what you can do, but it's not where you should start. Okay, you should always be aware of time and materials and resources and all of those things, but it's not actually where you should start when you think about pricing. Where you should start is, what is the amount that someone is willing to pay? What is the value of this thing here? Now, let's say with an hour of my time or your time, we could create something that people are willing to pay $1,000 for, right? What we say is, good on you, good on me, that's fantastic. Right, that's really, really cool. Now you could say, oh, but it's only an hour of my time, I'll just charge $100 for it, or $50 or something like that. It's like, no, if people value it at $1,000, charge $1,000. Right, and that's going to allow you to invest in yourself and your business and take things from there as well. Yes, you might find these other people who are, competing, and you can, get into that, but it comes down to, what is the value of this thing? And I'm going to share a really brief story here that really helps you sort of symbolize how this can work. So my original company that I had, my live events company, we had a lot of performers, characters, incredible costumes, dancers, pyrotechnics, flames. It's an amazing company. Now, one of our characters is called Mirror Man, right? And I've got to make sure I say it with my proper accent, because in New Zealand we say Mirror Man, and people are like, you mean like a merman, like mermaid, Logan? Is that what you're talking about? Like, no, Mirror Man, like reflective. Imagine a human disco ball suit, right? So it's a disco ball on an outfit. And this was a character that we'd have dancing on stage, interacting during the day at events, community events, corporate events, have stage lighting, all sorts of things. Amazing outfit. Just imagine like a whole lot of mirrors over a suit, mask, gloves, suit, everything. Now, this was one of our really cool concepts that we came up with, and we had it performing at events throughout New Zealand, right? And we were charging $250 for an hour for this character. Okay, now one of my managers came to me and he said, "Hey Logan, I think we should increase the price of Mirrorman in the Wellington region, local region." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, let's talk it through. And what are you thinking? We could test it out. I'm a big tester. How do we experiment in our businesses?" And I said, "How much do you want to charge? You want to raise it by 10% or something?" And he said, "No, I want to double it, $500 per hour for this character to be at events." And I was like, "You're crazy. You're crazy. Like, you know." I don't know, but let's give it a go. All right. Like, let's see what happens in this region, because the thing I do know, or did know then as well, is that let's say we doubled our pricing, but we lost half of our bookings. It meant we were going to earn the same amount of money from doing half the work. Right. So I knew about that principle, and I was like, well, it's an experiment. We'll see, and I kind of imagined that the number of sales is going to decrease, but we'll do the numbers on it, right? Because we were getting bookings of this character, every couple of weeks. Something really interesting happened, and it still blows my mind to this day what happens, and it's something that I love sharing because it's a true life story. Actually, the number of bookings, it didn't decrease. It did the opposite. It increased. Okay, so it's not just that we stayed the same. We started getting more bookings of this character. Now, the reason for that was because people started valuing Mirrorman at a higher level because of that price. Right, so Mirrorman, I'll get my pronunciation right, was always worth a lot more. But because we had it at a really low price, a lot of the events were like, it's probably not that good. Right, if it's only $250. And there's particularly corporate events. We noticed the corporate events started really booking Mirrorman a lot more because they were actually going, we want the best thing. Oh wow, $500. Yeah, we want that thing. And they started treating our team better as well. Really, really interesting. There's a whole lesson in that too. You charge at that higher level, you'll also get treated better. So I just really wanted to share that as an example around pricing. Pricing is a huge subject, as I said, but always start, what is this thing worth? What are people willing to pay? And if you're struggling to find people willing to pay at the rate you want to charge, maybe you need to be looking for other people, different target markets, different groups of people that are willing to pay that as well. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that, Julie, as we move on?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to pricing, that's the age old question, is how do you price your services or your products? And, there's all sorts of salary calculators out there or worksheets that you can find online, that include your cost of doing business and your cost of living and all that. And it's all a great place to start. But at the end of the day, like, there's no real one answer, right? You've got to find what's right for you. People were asked, well, what's the going rate for a graphic designer? I'm like, okay, I have questions. Like, there are so many different variables. How long have you been doing that? How good are you at your talent? Are you winning awards? Is your phone ringing off the hook? Are you in demand? Like, all of this comes into play. And, at the end of the day too, cost of living comes into play too. Like, are you in Chicago? Are you in Kansas City? Or are you somewhere else around the world? I certainly can't command as high of a price as my colleagues in New York City, just simply because the cost of living here in Kansas City is so much less, right? So they can command more. So there's so many variables that come into it. And I feel like the best tip I could possibly give is to test out your service or test out your rates for your services and for your products. Set a rate, see how it goes. Whether you are charging by the hour, by the day, by the project, however you decide to charge, test it. Right? If you start getting kickback like all the time, then of course that's going to tell you you're charging too much. But conversely, if you're not getting kickback or pushback any of the time, then you're not charging enough. So I feel like if you're getting pushback about 10% of the time, you're probably exactly where you need to be. Then again, like, don't forget to give yourself a raise every so often too. I think, freelancers forget to do that. And of course, now worldwide, we're experiencing this inflation, but it's really something that we ought to be considering all the time. I give myself a raise every year, best boss ever, and why not? As long as the market can withstand it, absolutely. I feel like that's a really good place to be.
Does anybody? It's an amazing topic. Yeah.
Yeah, we could go all day, I'm sure. Does anybody have any questions or comments on pricing before we move on? If so, put them in the chat.
Put them in the chat, yeah. If you've got anything, even as we go through each topic, if you wanted to add something, or we'll address it in the Q&A section as well. And just before we move on to the next one there, I love what you said just the end there, which is that price based on what the market is willing to pay. right? And it's actually something I remember a mentor said it to me about 10 years ago, when I was early stage in my own creative business. And, it really sunk in. It was like, what are people willing to pay? And sometimes it's going, as I said, it's just finding the people that are willing as well. So that's part of it. Love it.
And I will say, so yeah, I give myself a raise every year, but at the same point in time, there are some years where I don't. For example, when 9/11 hit here in the United States, or when COVID first hit, like I didn't feel right in doing that. I didn't feel like that was the ethical thing to do, to raise my prices when so many people were out of work or struggling with work or whatever the case may be. So, I take that with a grain of salt. And I just, like I said, I didn't feel right doing that. So, but it all pays off in the end. COVID hit, and I was busier than ever, right? Which was a huge surprise, but it was wonderful. So anyway,
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, oftentimes I find that designers especially are like underpricing themselves. So then when you do right size your pricing, there is that pushback quite a bit, because it's like, well, I can find someone cheaper, but cheaper doesn't mean better quality.
Right.
So like, any advice on that? Just
sure.
like your recommendation.
I feel like a lot of freelancers, especially when first starting out, they charge by the hour. And I really recommend getting away from that, because people are going to judge you based upon that hourly rate. And the more senior level you get, 25 years, right? Of course, your hourly rate is going to be up there, and they're going to be like, oh, well, why should I pay that exorbitant rate when I can get the same thing from somebody who's right out of college? And I'm like, it's not the same thing. You're comparing apples to oranges. So, again, I feel like, to Logan's point, if somebody's not willing to pay those prices and you can command those higher prices, then I feel like it's fair game. And you can always go find somebody else to work with. There will be people who are willing to pay for good quality.
Do you ever find that, like, when you switch, like, okay, so like I just switched over to like value-based pricing, but then I have sometimes clients that'll still try to break it down to like an hourly rate. Like, say I was doing a publication and it's a 30-page publication. Say hypothetically, I was charging maybe like $5,000. They'll still try to like break it down and say, that's fine. We'll pay you $5,000 as long as it's going to take you maybe one hour per page at a rate of like $75 or something like that.
Yeah, I maybe I'll jump in there, Julie. So this is a really interesting topic in itself here. It still goes back to exactly what Julie said around your badassery, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. If someone really is questioning you on that, you need to kind of go back and just be like, yeah, totally understand. Look, it's $5,000. That's what I'm offering, right? You're not offering per hour. Do you see? That's
yeah,
part of it.
I think that's you pretty much are reassuring me and nailing it on the head. That's kind of what I'm figuring out, is like, maybe then the client's just not a good fit. Like, if they continuously keep doing that, and then maybe it's just time to like make a decision and then move on and find someone that will fit better.
Yeah. Totally. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll keep moving through that as well. And just for anyone else, if you have questions as we move through, just fire them into the chat, and we'll try and address them in there as we can as well. All right. So what have we got next? What are we jumping into next?
It's me. Back to me. So we're gonna talk about setting policies and sticking to them, because again, I feel like this is something that a lot of freelancers aren't aware of going into starting their businesses. And quite honestly, it's just one of those things that's going to make your life so much easier. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. You got to train yourself first before you can train your clients. So you've got to get these policies in place. Things such as pricing. How are you going to charge? What are you going to charge for what are you going to charge? Things such as your payment terms. Are you doing a standard 30-day turnaround? Do you have shorter terms like 15 days? Do you accept longer terms? Do you charge additional fees such as late fees or rush fees or cancellation or kill fees, referral fees, or the fees that, don't put my name next to, but a lot of people charge them, the PETA fees? pain in the ass fees. Don't ever line item that, by the way. But really, how are you going to charge? Figure that all out. Figure out your office hours. When are you going to work? When can clients expect to hear from you, expect you to be working, expect that they can schedule a meeting with you? What are your policies when it comes to contracts and deposits? Like, do you even ask for deposits up front? You should. I'm telling you right now. Do you have, especially new clients, sign a contract? Again, you should. If you have any questions, come talk to me. But what are your policies on that? What do you do if a client won't pay you a deposit up front? What do you do if a client won't sign your contract, right? So once you have your policies in place, you want to share these with your clients or with new clients in particular, right? So they know your office hours. They know, like if they're asking you to work on something, and burn the midnight oil, that they're infringing upon your personal time and therefore, will be charged extra, a rush fee, because they're infringing upon it. We have to have that work-life separation, that balance. So keep that in mind. Talk to them in advance about any sort of onboarding processes that you have. Do you have, a discovery call? Are you going to have them sign an estimate? Do you have them sign a contract? Do you ask for a deposit? Whatever it is that your onboarding process includes, creative brief, what have you. Make sure that they are aware of what's to come. And you can have that verbally, you can put that in an email, but some of these harder policies, such as your payment terms and whatnot, absolutely need to be put in writing. You can put them in a contract, you can put them in an SOW or statement of work. You could put them in an email. I know some people have crafted either a working with me or a what to expect document that either they can send to their clients along with their contract, or maybe they have it as like a back end link on their website that they can send clients to. All super, super helpful. Again, it's just important to set these policies and then sticking to them, right? And in sticking to them, you want to be able to set boundaries. And that's why we're proactive in the beginning. We have these discussions up front, right? And I feel like education here is really key. Again, I don't feel like most people try to take advantage of a freelancer. I hope that's really the thing here. But at the end of the day, they may just not be familiar with working with the self-employed. And therefore, it's upon us to educate them of here's how it works. And if you go into that with confidence, if you go into that with your own badassery, you're going to be better off. So think in advance of like what kind of scenarios might come up in presenting these policies to your clients. Do they want you to work after hours or over a weekend? What happens if a client or prospective client won't sign your contract, pay your deposit? I've mentioned this before. And then stand your ground. Again, every situation is going to be different. I would really, if somebody comes back and they balk at something, ask a simple question. Ask why. Why won't you sign my contract? Is it because maybe they work at a large corporation and their large corporation has a contract that they want you to sign instead? That's fine as long as you look at it and it's a win-win situation for both parties. The key here is that all contracts are negotiable, right? So keep in mind that if they give you a contract to sign, it's okay as long as the stuff that's super important to you, such as payment terms, intellectual property, et cetera, are listed in their contract as well. And you can, if it's not, you can always ask for that to be included, okay? If they won't pay a deposit, again, ask why. Most people are like, oh, but Julie, that's a huge red flag. There's white red flags going up. That's a huge red flag. I'm totally walking away if they won't pay a deposit. And I agree, it's a huge red flag. However, there are some situations where it's like, well, okay, I get it. If it's a startup, if it's a company that is struggling, run away. If it's a small mom and pop shop, I would run away. If it is again, I'm going to bring back the large corporation or big ad agency or whatever it is that you're working for, and maybe they need you to get started on this project right away, and it's going to take 30 days for them to process any sort of check. That's fine. Again, get everything in writing as long as you have a contract that says that they're going to pay you at the end of the day, at the end of the project, and they'll pay you within your payment terms. I think you'll be okay. All right. So just be ready with these different scenarios, what's going to happen, if you should stand your ground, and honestly, just trust your gut. Ask questions. If it feels wrong, It probably is. Okay. And just know that it's okay to walk away from particular clients. And quite honestly, it's so empowering to do so. What? You want to fire me? No, I'm firing you. You know, it's kind of awesome. Even before you get started. And just know that there's plenty of work out there and you just have to find it. But I think really the message here is that when you act like a business, you're more likely to get treated like a business. So you agree, Logan?
Oh, totally with you. There's so many great things here. And it makes me think about how, like, part of it is that you're all going to make some mistakes around this stuff, right? Like, put the time in, learn about these things. Exactly, you know, all these things Julie shared is fantastic. Also, we know, Julie and I both know, we've both made mistakes in how we've done things. The key there is then to learn from them. Right. So, you know, oh my man, I wish I'd given them a contract with this, or I wish they'd given them a contract at all. Okay, take that learning now, put it in the next contract, make sure the next one is signed. Think about your payment terms. And, you know, that's part of it. Learn everything you can, but just know that part of being in business is that you're going to make mistakes, but you've just got to learn from them. Something that both Julie and I love to do is help our clients and help people we work with to avoid the mistakes. Often, sometimes they're mistakes that we've made in our creative careers as well, and we love to help people avoid them. But we also know that part of it is that mistakes are going to happen, and you actually need to make sure you learn from them. Right? I've got clients that make mistakes as well as they go through. But it's okay, because I'd rather them make mistakes that they can learn from rather than just not taking the action. Oh, well, too hard. I'm worried about working with this sort of client because I don't know how that would work and it could go wrong. Well, okay, let's learn from it. Let's see how that could go. So lots of good stuff in there as well. All right, so we're going to keep going through a couple more, and then we will have question time quite soon. So if you have any questions you do want to ask, now they can be general creative business questions. They don't have to be related to what we talked about. They could be related to what we've spoken about. Fire them in here, okay? So put them into the chat, and then when it comes to Q&A time soon, we'll get into that as well. All right, so I'm going to keep my next one relatively brief, so we can jump into Q&A time soon. Cross-selling is really, really important, okay? Now, what do I mean by cross-sell? Okay, so what tends to happen is people connect with you somehow, or you've connected with them, and they're after a specific service, specific service or product. Right, and they come to you and they're interested in this thing, or you've reached out to them and you're having a conversation. They're saying, hey, I'm interested in this product or this service. You go, that's great. Now it's very easy to just go into a conversation, send a proposal, here's my prices, do all that process. It's very, you know, this person wants the price, give them the price, Logan, right? But actually what we say is, first of all, you need to better understand their needs. Okay, so this is where getting into some questioning, understanding whether it's via email or on a call. First of all, clarify their needs. Like, is this thing going to solve the problem, the challenge that they have? Okay, because otherwise you're just pitching them a product or service that they may not need, or it's going to be a disaster from the start, right? As well as that, it gives you an opportunity to share the other ways you could help this awesome client. Okay, and I'm going to give kind of a pretty out there example from my old creative company again. Once again, very different from what anyone here is doing, I'm sure. But we used to have people approaching us for stilt walkers. All right, so big characters on stilts, like on big pegs, really tall, you know, kind of stuff you see at the circus. Right, and people would say, oh wow, we want your stilt walkers at our corporate event on the entrance. Now what we used to do, we used to go, yeah, that sounds good, here's the price. Right, and they'll go, cool, we'll book it for an hour. And then we go, okay, great, we'll be really happy, we made $500. Now, what was really interesting is when we then stopped just giving them the price straight away, instead, we said, hey, that's great, you're interested in that. Look, just want to ask a few things about your needs. How high is the roof? Right, stilt walkers are going to hit the head on the roof. Tell us more about the event. Is there a theme? Thinking about costuming. Also, would you be interested in some information around some of the other things we offer, such as XYZ? Fire dancers, pyrotechnics, all of these other crazy things that we offered, right? So for you, that might be around your designs or your artwork, or depending on what area of business you're in, you might have other things that you can offer, right? So they've come to you for this specific thing, but then you've got these other things available. Now, what people sometimes say to me, I have good conversations with clients around this. They say, but Logan, surely, like, if they came through my website, they must have seen the fact that I also do full brand designs, or I do murals, or I'm an illustrator, or, you know, I've got these other things. So surely if they wanted it, they would tell me originally when they're seeking the other product. I know, I agree. You would think that's how the world works, but it doesn't, right? And my old entertainment company, we were called highly flammable. Like, we were built around fire and pyrotechnics. That was the foundation of the business. We would have people coming to us for stilt walkers who we would then say, hey, you interested in some fire dancers? And they'll be like, oh, you do that? Like, yes, like, you came in through the website. There's a giant picture of someone, doing flame spinning. Like, it's really interesting, but they've come for a specific reason. Okay, so it's up to you to cross-sell and upsell. And suddenly, us having those conversations and asking questions, we're going to make sure they get the product or the service that they want, but also it's an opportunity to maybe turn this into more of a package. Suddenly, those of you that are graphic designers, this could be a full brand deal, right? Or they may want something else that you can offer as well. So suddenly you can turn that $500 offer that you had, that $500 client, into something that could be $2,000 to $10,000. Right? It's fascinating. So that's what I'm going to share around that one, is the opportunities around the cross-sell or the upsell. There's different ways to put it, but it's just really sharing. Here's the other things I'm up to. Here's the other ways I can help as well. Awesome.
Yeah, I think asking questions is really good, and your branding package is an excellent example of that. Somebody comes to you for a logo. It's like, okay, what else can you do with that? Can you give them a style guide? Can you flesh it out to a whole branding package, including voice and tagline, and all the things that come with it. So always good to ask questions. And then that way you can be like, well, have you ever thought about this? Because I think that would really be beneficial for you, Awesome. Well, let's keep moving so we can stay on time here. I've got one last tip for you all, and that is about self-promotion and how to promote yourself in the best light. Now, I know not everybody loves to promote themselves. I'm probably one of the weird ones who actually does. I don't know why it's become my thing, but I absolutely love it. Not as like a cocky thing. It's almost like it's a challenge for me, and how I can figure out the algorithms and what works and what doesn't work and all that jazz. But I feel like as a creative freelancer, you have to put yourself out there. Even if you're an introvert, find what feels right to you and use that. It's just an absolute necessity. Because otherwise, like, how are people even going to know who you are and what you do? How are they going to be able to hire you or refer you to others if they don't know what you offer, right? So you have to be able to tell them. And one of the first ways to do that is, of course, to create and maintain a stellar brand. Now, I'm not just talking your logo. I know most people, when you say brand, that's the first thing that comes to mind, but as those of us in the business know, there's more to it, right? It's your company name, it's your colors, your fonts, your theme, your tagline, your voice. Don't forget the copy side of things, copywriter right here, because that's also very important, okay? And in identifying or when coming up with your brand, don't forget to figure out what your USP is. Your USP is your unique selling proposition or unique selling point, depending on who you talk to. Either way, it's a fancy term that essentially means it's your differentiator. What makes you different / unique from somebody else who's doing something similar in your market, okay? How can you separate yourself from them? How can you stand out from them? And once you have this figured out, highlight it in absolutely everything you do when it comes to your brand and promotions, okay? The key here is to be authentic. Just because somebody else is doing something doesn't mean you ought to be doing it as well. Come up with your own original ideas. I tell you, this happened to me a few years ago. Somebody not only stole my business idea and beat me to the punch, but then was playing off of my tagline, my brand gradient, my colors, my promotions even. And the funny thing is that she promoted herself as a brand expert, and yet her brand was little to nowhere to be found. And I was like, what are you doing? Stop copying me. It was really weird. So be original in everything you do. People can see through it. People want to work with those who they know, like, and trust, and you want to be that person. So once you've got your brand figured out and you want to start promoting yourself, I think most people automatically think social media. Of course, it's free, it's easy, absolutely use it. When I first started freelancing 25 years ago, we did not have social media. So absolutely use it. But you gotta you got to just not like set it and forget it. Like, I can't tell you how often I'll go to like somebody's profile and they set it up 3 years ago and they haven't posted since. I'm like, that's not doing you any favors. I'd much rather you not even have a profile on that platform if you're not going to be using it. So remember, yes, post on the regular to make sure that the algorithm likes you. Engage with your target audience. That means you've got to figure out who your target audience is, and then be strategic about it as well. Use the stories on Instagram, on Facebook, use the reels, whatever it is that you can, and be strategic about what it is that you're putting out there. Okay. Now, beyond social media, what else can you do? I personally feel that it is so important to have some sort of online presence outside of social media, whether this is a website or a portfolio site or something where you can send people to learn more about you and see samples of your work. I feel like that's really good. Email, don't forget about email. I got to tell you, I learned a few years back that email is king or queen or whatever you want to call her, gender neutral, right? But email is the top of its game and people forget about that, but it's got much, much higher conversion rates than social media. And why? The answer is clear. It's because you've got a captive audience of people who have opted in to hear your or see your content. Okay, so do not discount email. Take the time to grow a list and be in touch with your contacts on the regular. What else can you do? You can look into public relations. You can do public speaking. You can do interviews, whether you get interviewed on a webinar or a podcast or for a magazine article or whatever. You can participate in award shows. The list goes on and on. If you feel like you're a good writer, you could write blogs, you could write articles. I would say if you've got like a happy client, somebody who had a really good experience with you, ask them for a testimonial, ask them for a referral, and then use it. Put it on your website, put it on social media, ask them to put it on your Facebook business page or in your LinkedIn profile. You could volunteer, you could serve on boards and on committees. Like, what feels right to you? There are so many opportunities out there that are good for both introverts and extroverts. Like, you don't have to go to all the networking things if that doesn't feel right to you, but there are plenty of other things you can do behind your keyboard, right? So I feel like at the end of the day, some of these opportunities, yes, are free or inexpensive, and some of them are worth investing in. Quite honestly, the hard truth of the day, you've got to spend money to make money. You really do. And if you find that you want to do some things to promote yourself and you're not good at them, like if you're not a good writer, you're not a good designer, you're not a good web developer, find somebody who is. Maybe you can trade out services or do a friends and family discount kind of thing, or pay them what they're worth, right? That's always great. But outsource this to those who are good, because there's nothing worse than having your brand, your company, your image supported by like a bad design, right? Or bad writing. So know your strengths and weaknesses, surround yourself with smart and talented people. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's going to help you really promote yourself in the best light. Oh, Shannon agrees. Thank you, Shannon. Any other thoughts, Logan, on that?
No, I love it. There's so much good stuff there. So what we might do now, friends, is we're going to jump into a bit of a Q&A. So just if you have any questions you're wanting to ask Julie or I, fire them into the chat. We will probably be finishing close to the hour, but we're happy to go a bit over if we need to. If we've got questions popping up. We have already been sent a few questions in, those of you that got the email, we had some come in there. So I'm going to start there. But if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll do our best. I always say to my clients, like, there's no question that is too easy or too hard, right? So the easy ones often are actually really amazing questions that aren't simple, aren't easy. We can get into that. Or the things that you think, oh, they might not know, we can always often at least point you in the right direction. Or maybe we can actually help you because it's something we have experienced or supported our clients with. Awesome. Okay, so the first one that I'm gonna talk about, I got a question around time. Like, I'm struggling with finding time to run my creative business next to my day job. And this is something that Honestly, I get it. It's tough. It's really tough, particularly those of you that are trying to balance multiple things. Now, it might not be a day job and then you have your freelance business on the side. It could be that you're busy with family. You could have other commitments. There could be other things in your life that just mean that you don't have a lot of time to spend on your creative business. And it's one of the struggles that you have. You're like, well, I feel like I'm on a treadmill. I'm just like working all the time and I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not earning the money I want to earn. So I'm going to give you a few tips around this. Tip number one, we've already talked a lot about, which is around pricing, right? So that's one of the things we see. If the time that you have is limited, then that might mean your pricing needs to increase, right? Yes, it's about sometimes making sure you've got the clients that are willing to pay that and all of those things. But typically what I see, and this is something I do with my clients early on, is we really go through and we review what they're pricing things at. And typically what I see, and we see this in the creative industry a lot, is that people are just underpricing their services, their products and services. So it means that they're working lots and lots of hours, spending lots of time, and they're not earning that much money. So that's an area that sometimes we can really lean into so that they're ideally earning the same or more off less time, right? So that's one area. The second area I'll talk about is around productivity. Okay, so it's a bit of a gimmicky topic of productivity. What I've seen is that if you put systems in place and you learn about productivity, it's not that you can become 10 or 20% more effective and efficient. You can double your output, right? It's absolutely incredible. And this is through being really smart around the things that you're doing and what you're not doing, right? That's a really important one. We all get so busy, we can end up on social media thinking that we're on social media for our business, but you don't need to spend time scrolling on social media for it to be useful for your business, right? There's specific things that you can do that shouldn't take too long. Okay, so that's one area. I see it a lot. Something I go through is there's this amazing thing called the time management matrix. I'd love you to just Google it. I'll see if I can pop something in the chat after this. And it really helps you to understand the different things that you do each day in your business, right? And it's very easy to be quite ineffective and efficient. And it talks about the importance and the urgency of what we do. Okay, and it's very easy to feel like everything is important, everything is urgent. So sometimes those are what we call the frogs. We need to eat those frogs, we need to get them out of the way. But also there's these other things. There's another quadrant in this time management matrix, which is called important, but it's not urgent. Right now, those things never get done. They're things that will help you take your business forward, relationship building, marketing, promotions. If you don't do it today, the world's not going to end. Your business isn't going to end. If you don't do it this week, it's okay. But over time, you'll notice that your business is not growing, you're stagnating, you're not going anywhere. So this is where those tasks, you've got to work out ways to add urgency to them. Right, working with a coach is one way that people do it. It's part of our roles as coaches. We help them get things done, accountability, but also systems. What are the systems you've got in place? What are the task lists you have? So something I really encourage all my clients to do is learn about productivity. Learn about productivity hacks. What are the things that you can do? Because every little thing is going to save you time if you're really smart. And it's amazing. I've got clients who feel like they're overwhelmed. They're spending all the hours. They're up late. They're working on weekends. And then suddenly they get to a point where they're earning more money, yet they're working less. And they're like, how's that even possible? It seemed impossible. But it's because they've been smart around the things that they are doing. And as I said, the things that they're not doing as well. Fantastic. So it's around that question. We'll keep on rolling on for maybe a couple more, Julie.
Sure. I had one thought on that too, when it comes to time management. One of the best tips I ever got from one of my coaches, yes, coaches have coaches, but one of the best tips I ever got was to carve out an hour a day to work on your business, whether that's marketing, new business development, even cleaning up your office. And it has made a huge mountain of a difference. I can't even begin to tell you. An hour a day, it sounds like a lot, but honestly, you'll get into it and you're like, oh, there's not enough time, I need more than 1 hour. But there's always something to be done. We talk about this concept of either working on your business or working in your business. Working in your business is obviously doing the paid work that comes in the door from your clients. Working on your business is everything else that isn't necessarily paid for, but that's going to help you get ahead. Whether it's promotion or new business development or organizing or doing taxes or whatever it is, we've got to set aside time to work on our business. So I would just add to that. I add an hour a day if you can, and carve out time to dedicate to that.
Awesome. Just before we jump into it, Julie. So, team, I've just seen the time. It is the time that we said we would finish. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep going for a few more minutes. If you need to leave, that's totally cool. But we're just going to share briefly in the chat a couple of things each. These are ways that we could support you moving forward. Both Julie and I have various things, programs, coaching things that we can do. Part of it is go check out our websites, have a look. I know we've both got some freebie downloads and things there as well, but we'll both just post some stuff in the chat there that could really help you move forward. I'm going to be sharing something around, a check-in that I get people to do that really helps them take things forward as well. Have you got something you can fire into the chat for everyone as well, Julie?
Sure, absolutely. So if you're not already, I have a group on Facebook called Freelance Rockstars. If you're on Facebook, I would love for you all to come join me. That's number one for me. And then let me pull up my my freebie. Of course, you can sign up for my mailing list and get the freebie. And Logan, what are you putting in there?
I'll put the it's called the Creative Business Check-in. So Creative Business Check-in, it's a really handy thing. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes in there as well to do. So look, we're going to answer a couple more questions, but if you do need to wrap up and you need to leave, cool, but we're going to probably go for another 5 or 10 minutes. We've got a couple of juicy ones here that I really want to answer, so we will go a bit further. So I think we'll jump in. You've got a question there as well, Julie, so we'll get you to share that one next. Cool.
Sure, absolutely. So along with people asking all the time, like, how do you price your services, your products? Like, the other thing I get asked all the time is, where do you find work? I'm sure a lot of people are like nodding their heads like, yes, where do you find work? Again, there's no one real answer, and it's going to be different for everybody. Now, of course, there are online platforms you can go through. I would be remiss if I didn't mention things like Fiverr, Upwork. However, I personally don't recommend them. I feel like they devalue the profession. I feel like they're a race to the bottom, but if you're desperate, feel free to check those out. Otherwise, honestly, I think that your best way of finding work really is through self-promotion, through networking, through doing all of the things that we talked about. Again, people want to work and refer those who they know, like, and trust. So you've got to become that person. And what better way to do that than through social media, through email, through speaking opportunities. Look what I'm doing right now, right? Find the things that work for you to further that image reputation, if you will. So you will get more of the leads, you'll get more of the clients, you'll get more of the referrals. Anything else you got to add on that, Logan? How to find work?
Yeah, very, very powerful. So actually, it's kind of related actually to the question that I've got here as well. So we might dig into that a little bit more. And someone's just shared briefly in the chat that they were having some trouble with my link. So I'm just going to reshare that as we do that. Cool. I'll fire another version of that in there. Cool. So look, the key here is the question I've actually got that we're going to dive into more is basically like, what is the biggest struggle you see in business, right? And it's around this stuff. It's having enough work. Right? The biggest struggle is actually having enough people coming to you, right? So these things impact everything, right? If you had people beating on your door right now, filling your email inbox with, hey, love your work, love what you're up to, awesome, what are your prices, all of those things. If you had that happening all the time, it would make your job much easier. You could raise your prices, you could be picking and choosing the work that you want. So therefore, one of the biggest challenges people have is the fact that people do not know that you exist, right? So people go, oh, maybe my creativity is not good enough. Maybe I'm not that good at what I do. Maybe I need to work on my craft. Hey, those things, they're good to keep working on. Keep working your craft, keep growing that. But that's not usually the thing in the way. Usually the thing in the way is that people just don't know you exist. And that's marketing, right? And a lot of creative people, they struggle with that. I'm going to reword it. Marketing is just sharing. Right? It's just sharing. That's all it is. It's just sharing with the world what you're up to, how you can help, the amazing skills and abilities that you have. Okay, so what Julie's been sharing here is all sorts of amazing ways that you can market. Now, people come to me and they say, oh, I just don't even have a business. And I go, cool. I'm like, what are you doing around marketing? They go, oh, well, I've tried the social media thing, but it just doesn't work for me. Right. This is really common. And I go, okay, like, let's have a look at what you're doing. And we go to their pages or look at their social media platforms, and they're not doing marketing. They're not doing social media. They're occasionally posting, right? They're occasionally doing some stuff. They tried it for a week and gave up, right? They heard that it's great to post every day. They tried it for a week, didn't work, gave up. These things take time. These things take effort. These things take systems to put in place. And we don't expect success overnight, right? We hear it's quite a cliche thing, that overnight success it's not overnight, right? When I look at my businesses that I've built over the years, it takes time, okay? But when you're consistently promoting and marketing yourself over time, it does build up. And something that, we think about a lot is, what is the medium that works for you? All right. And as soon as you find that medium that you enjoy, whether it's email outreach or social media or building relationships or networking, whatever it is, as soon as you find it, double down on it, right? Yes, do the other things. These things are great. They can support that core medium, right? So for me in my business, once again, I'm a coach. I'm not like most of you, in the creative space with creative services, but I'm a coach. For me, it's partnerships. Right? Partnerships and relationships. That's how I build my business. So therefore, yes, I do the social media thing, but it's only to support my work in partnerships. Okay. And I've recognized that works for me. So therefore, I put a lot of time and energy. I'm learning about it. I'm doing what I can. I'm growing in that area, all of those things. Now, someone said to me the other day, Logan, you have to get on TikTok. Now, for me, that's a distraction. It's a distraction. Maybe I should get on TikTok and play around with it, but it would be a very small portion of my energy. I put like 5% of my energy into it to test it out and try it out. The reality is, I know the mediums that work for me. TikTok is unknown. I don't know. Maybe it will be amazing, but I don't know. What I do know is that networking, partnerships, relationships is what works for me. So for all of you, part of what you need to work out is, what is it that you can do? And then how can you lean into marketing within that as well? Love it. Anything else to add there, Julie, before we wrap up?
Oh, hey, Doc. Of course, love sharing my badassery tips with you all. I'm glad you made it today. Yeah, I think all of that is really, really good. Find the mediums that work for you, find the things that feel comfortable to you. And I would add on to that too, like find out where your clients are, or your prospective clients, your target audience. Where are they hanging out? Are they on social media? If so, what platforms are they on? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Instagram? Like, figure that out. Where are they active? That's where you're going to find that information. And then, beyond that, again, don't forget the other things. Like when we talk about networking, like, where does your target audience hang out? Do they go to particular groups and meetups and whatnot? If so, show up there. Again, become the person who they know, like, and trust, and get in front of their face. I think that's going to be really good. So yeah, we are past time. Does anybody have any other questions that they want to put in the chat real quick, or should we wrap things up here and let everybody else get back to work, where you're either working on your business or working in your business?
I love it. Hey, it's been so great doing this with you, Julie. And thank you everyone that's come along. Also to those of you that are watching the recording as well, well done. Like there's so much to keep learning, and just keep working on it as well. So it's been amazing connecting everyone. We're going to wrap up in the next 30 seconds or so. So thank you so much, Julie. Appreciate getting together and having some fun together. It's been awesome, hasn't it?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Awesome. Hey, take care, everyone. Have a lovely rest of the day, and we'll catch up soon. Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
See yas. Bye.